Well, I'm delighted to be joined by Josh Gowdy, who is one of our Queen Mary music scholars. And Josh is a jazz drummer. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks for joining me.
Now, Josh, you're a really quite stunning jazz drummer. I love hearing you play, although we actually have yet to meet in person. It's quite curious.
Yeah.
We're doing everything over the internet these days. But everything that I've heard you play, obviously, in film or in recordings in whatever way, has been really unusual. But what are you studying at Queen Mary? What are you up to here?
So I am doing a PhD in physics. So the opposite end of the kind of subject spectrum from music, but I find there's kind of crossovers between the two. But yeah, I'm doing a PhD in physics in the Center for String Theory Research.
Now, I know that said that music is a huge passion for you, because it's been impossible to keep you out of the drum room, hasn't it? You know that.
Yes, I did make it my mission to spend at least an hour a day there. Sometimes I did 2 hours in the morning. I used to wake up very early, be the first one in there before I go into the office to do my research.
And it's really important to you. How important has music been to you throughout your life, and when did it begin?
I think probably my first kind of musical memories, is like listening to the music in the car on like long car journeys when I was very young. Those are kind of my first memories, and I think just like some of the music I was listening to was from my parents' musical tastes. So there was like quite a lot of funk and soul, and that was from my mum, and then my dad was into punk rock and stuff like that. So I kind of started there, and that's kind of what the kind of hook, the musical hook, got into me then. And I always kind of wanted to pick up an instrument and start playing. And I kind of started playing drums when I was 10, I think, 9 or 10,
Right.
at the end of primary school, really.
But it's quite unusual, because although when people say they're a jazz drummer or particularly interested in jazz, I think a lot of people think that jazz is a very acceptable thing. But in actual fact, not many people go down the jazz route, do they?
No, I think I don't remember having many friends that were kind of into jazz music during school or anything. And there was a jazz band, but actually I didn't even really get involved with the jazz band. I think my kind of interest in jazz happened quite late, actually. I think I kind of worked my way through all the genres there were, and then got to jazz at the end and realized that there was a kind of something that I really loved.
And what is it that you particularly like? Because I know when I've heard your music, you love playing with quite complex rhythms and playing around with them and joining rhythms together. What is it that you feel has drawn you to that, and why you want to stay there?
I think the kind of freedom aspect is important to me. I think the kind of pushing yourself to explore the kind of all the different kind of permutations of rhythm and I mean I don't play much tuned instruments, but harmony as well. I think that kind of aspect of kind of really opening the gates and allowing any sort of kind of musicality or any kind of concept to just kind of rush through you while you're playing is a big draw for me. I mean, I've always really been into electronic music, and I think one of the similarities I see between jazz and electronic music, even though the performance aspect is completely different because jazz is often live and electronic music isn't, is that kind of the layer. I really enjoy building layers and layers of rhythm and texture and stuff, and I think that's a big part of electronic music. And in jazz, even like a small like kind of trio or even a duo can actually create a lot of layers in their sound through different kind of techniques, and that's something I really enjoy, is the kind of layering of things.
And I think a lot of people again have I mean, jazz is such a wide world. I mean, like classical music, you can go from the Baroque to the contemporary, and it's exactly the same with jazz. But you have a really multiple range of interests, don't you, in music? Crossing, I mean, where just give us a sort of taste and flavor of the music that influences you and inspires you.
Yeah, I think with respect to my drumming and my playing, the kind of stuff that really inspires me is what's happening right now in the UK with the kind of UK jazz scene. There's kind of like drummers like Yusuf Days is like the kind of big dog in that scene, and his music that he's making at the moment is just amazing, and his drumming is amazing, and it kind of blends. It's hard to. It sounds so different from kind of your traditional jazz, but it is the same. It's got the same kind of motivation as traditional jazz, but it blends things from hip hop a lot as well, and that's something I really enjoy. And electronic music.
Traditionally, jazz has done that, borrowed from popular musics of its day, and it's ever evolved. I mean, I know Miles Davis is a particular influence on you as well, but give us also a flavor. I mean, do you write your own music as well? Do you create your own work?
I do a lot of kind of, I guess you could call it composition for drums. A lot of it is on the fly. I don't often write down exactly what I want to play and then go and play it. Which so I think most of the stuff I do is improvisation, playing on the fly. But what I do is I kind of, if I'm playing along to something, or maybe even if I wrote just a very basic kind of chord progression that I loop, for example, and play along to, I will kind of spend maybe like a month or longer, 2 months with the same thing, just playing it kind of a couple of times a day. And I find through that process, by the end, I can have some quite distinct sections or some quite clear ideas. That's why I really enjoy, and that was what I did kind of over the summer during the first lockdown, was finding music with no drums, often just solo piano, and then just playing along to that and almost creating a track that has drums, where the drums in the piano or the drums and whatever it is are in sync and working together. So it's not just like I'm playing the drums over the track. I'm trying to like almost imagine if I was actually involved in the writing of that music and contribute that way.
Now, one of the things that jazz is so central is, and musicians love doing, is obviously working together and feeding, jazz musicians particularly, feeding off the inspiration that others can give. What does music mean to you, particularly this year, and how have you coped with the challenge that you can't meet people at the moment?
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough for everyone. I think for musicians, it's been like you've had to basically hit the reset button or at least pause for a while. And I've been basically just trying to focus on getting better as a drummer, spending a lot of time in the practice room. And I've got to the stage now where I really want to just kind of, leave the practice room and blossom and actually start playing gigs with people. That's how I feel I've got to that stage now where I feel ready to do that.
And how important has that been to you this year, the opportunity to be playing music on a daily basis in that?
Really important. I can't overstate that. It's been hugely important. Yeah.
Now let's go back in time to a sort of more normal period. Has there been any particular events or musical experiences that you would say have made an extraordinary impact on you?
I think there's been a lot of those sort of moments, and I think I'd kind of divide them into two. Allow me to say two. One of them would be going to Glastonbury Festival, or actually a lot of the festivals. I went to a festival in Germany called Melt Festival. That was in 2019, but also Glastonbury in 2017. I think the festival experience is just like it's an amazing thing, and it's just it gives me so much joy, and it's so inspiring, and I love listening to music kind of back to back throughout the whole day, and camping and being in the outdoors. So those two festivals in particular really stick in my mind. And then also, I guess during my undergrad, I was in a kind of funk and soul band, and there were a couple of gigs. We were like an 11-piece funk and soul band doing covers, really, actually, mostly. And there were a few gigs with that band that were just really good fun, really, really good fun.
Now, you're doing your PhD, you've got all that underway, which suggests you're going down the physics route. But how are you going to keep music, or how important and where do you imagine music is going to be in your sort of future life?
I think it will always be with me. I kind of see myself. I really would like to get into a band this year, or hopefully this year, and start writing music and playing gigs. That was one of the reasons I wanted to do a PhD in London, was because I knew there's so much music happening here, and it's such a good place to do that. And then longer term, like I do see myself just playing drums and playing music for the rest of my life.
You've got such a wide range of interests in music, and I know that you found it impossible to pin it down to 3. So you've chosen 4, an exception.
Yeah.
You've chosen 4 pieces that you want to share with us. Can you just give us an insight into which ones they are?
Yeah, sure. So the first one I chose is it's by Duke Ellington, and it's called A Single Petal of a Rose, and it's just solo piano basically. Actually, I think there's some cello as well in the second half, and it's just a beautiful piece, and it's something that I would quite like to learn on piano one day.
Okay, an unusual choice as well of Duke Ellington, not an obvious choice by any stretch of the imagination. And your second piece?
One of my favourite kind of English folk guitar kind of singer-songwriter, I guess, is Nick Drake, who passed away a long time ago now. He's from the 60s and 70s, I think. You might know him better than I do. But his track, 3 Hours, is, I think, just some of the most like wonderful guitar playing and singing and lyrics as well that I've ever heard. It's just one of my favorite songs. I find it very moving.
And then your third piece?
My third one is really because MF Doom, who is one of my favorite rappers, passed away recently, and I thought it'd be nice to include one of his tracks. And so this one is Gazillion Ear, and in particular, I really enjoy the Tom York remix of Gazillion Ear by MF Doom. Tom York being the kind of lead singer and writer for Radiohead. Yeah. I think the reason I picked this also is because I've been playing along to it, drumming along to it a lot recently as well. And MF Doom has just got this amazing rhythmic kind of rapping ability that it just is so fun to play drums to, and to try and match the kind of syllables that he's using to the kind of rhythms that I'm playing.
And your final choice is something that's completely unfamiliar to me.
The final one is a track called Voila by Saint-Germain, who are they're basically house producers, but it's jazzy house, often with some kind of Afrobeat or Afro house influences as well. Again, they've been releasing a lot of music recently also, but they've come back into the 90s, I think, even, but definitely in the noughties. So again, not really a contemporary kind of act, but their music is kind of something that my parents introduced to me when I was quite young, and it's just very danceable and very like kind of good fun, extremely melodic and rhythmic as well. So it's just, yeah, I really enjoy it.
Well, I knew you'd choose some really unusual stuff and some music that will. I'm going to delight in returning to Duke Ellington's music of that particular genre as well, which is, as you say, very haunting. As ever, Josh, it's a very great pleasure to talk with you. I'm really looking forward to meeting you in the flesh.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah. It's been lovely to talk to you, but I agree. Over Zoom, it's often not quite as fun as in real life. So, yeah, hopefully sometime soon.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you very much, Joshua.
Thanks.